Imagine this. It is the night before the biggest game of your life, and you are lying in bed, not watching film, not lifting weights, not even stretching, but you are running through every single detail of tomorrow. You are on the court, calling for the ball. You're feeling the texture of the ball, the heat of the lights. You're seeing the ball leave your hand and splash nothing but net. This is not daydreaming. This is mental imagery. It's the same technique used by Olympic athletes, NBA legends, and top collegiate players in the past, like Doug McDermott, who scored over 3,000 career points at Creighton and was named a National Player of the Year in 2014. And behind that kind of excellence, a mental performance system that includes high level imagery coaching. And I got all this information from the same sports psych I recently connected with who worked with Doug McDermott during his time. There's a pretty fortunate connection that we made. And today we are breaking down why and how mental imagery works, and more importantly, how you can start using it today to dominate your sport. Hey y'all, welcome to the Mental Performance Playbook, where we break down those elite mental strategies and delivering them in those actionable exercises for you to apply immediately. My name is Gabe Rummel, mental performance coach, founder of The Athlete's Health, creator of our Phrenomic Gym, and developing our Performance Institute, where we are training your mind just like we train the body. Now, each week, we focus on a mental performance theme that helps that athlete, the coach, or the parent with these practical tools, those exercises to build that stronger focus, resilience, confidence. And this week's theme is all around mental imagery, where we are given 4 practical mental imagery exercises for athletes to use. So without further ado, let's dive deep into mental imagery. And the first trick exercise that we have today is previewing the play. This is that game day imagery. Now we can use this the night before a game or even the morning of, but this is going to help us see the gameplay, see just all around what we are doing before we do it, so the brain gets ready to do it. And all of this stuff has so many studies to back it up. And so I'm going to kind of fly through these quickly first, why, how, etc. of it, and then a little story for it and how we can really use it right away. But for this first one of previewing the play and that game day energy, all we have to do is sit in a quiet place. We can visualize the venue where we're at, the warm up. We can visualize the crowd that we're going to be hearing, or the no crowd, like if it's a golf game and there's the soft claps. And we can visualize ourselves executing at that high level. We use all 5 senses. So it's, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? What's the touch like? What's even a taste like? And we can run through maybe 2 or 3 ideal plays in your specific position, or plays that we think we will be running into. Now this gets that brain rehearsing so your body can then follow. Then we are not thinking about it as much because we have been there, done that in the head, in that mental game. We've already played the game mentally. So then the body just has to do what it knows it can do. This builds that confidence and really primes that muscle memory, both mentally muscle memory and physically muscle memory. It gets used to it more. And the story I use for this, where we are pulling this out of, is from sports psych Mr. Stark, Dr. Stark, who worked with Doug McDermott. They would visualize before every game, and they'd say it even turned into an almost hypnotic state. Now you may be like thinking like, dude, this is a little hocus pocus type of magic here. Like, I don't know if I believe in this. Trust me. I used to think the same thing until I looked at it and saw time after time after time after time this works. Those elite athletes that we see, they are so elite because they're not just doing it on the court or on the field or on the track practicing physically. When they go home, they cannot separate. They are thinking about this all the time. Now, I'm not saying we need to do that all the time, but I say that because they are constantly mentally rehearsing it. Just like this first one of previewing the play for that game day imagery, we can use our game day imagery just like Doug McDermott would use and any other athlete that we saw to just kind of run through the generality of the game, of the pregame, of some of our top plays, all the senses, throw it in there and go into our visualizing and mental imagery rehearsal. I forgot to plug this at the start of this episode, but listen till the end because we're going to plug a free audio script brought to you by the Athlete's Health that you can take to help specifically your composure, handling that pressure and staying composed when it matters most. So we'll talk about that here in a sec. But number two is the reset and rerun. So this is mental imagery outline for a post mistake, for if we're making some mistakes, what we can do after it, how we can get back into the play. Because we're going to have some tough plays. We're going to make an error. We're going to make that mistake both mentally and physically. And we have to know how to get out of that rut and how to get right back into our performance, whether it is in the next game, the next day, or the next play. And so quick run through of what we can do, how we can do this is closing the eyes, mentally pause, even if it's in game. Got to rewind the moment. Okay. Like we're imagining this, we're seeing this visually, like it's an image of one of those old VHS tapes. Okay. Boom. Before the CDs. Now we don't have any of that stuff, but old VHS tape, like we'd see in the movies. And we could physically ourselves rewind the tape. We are going to rewind the tape, that moment, until it's before the mess up. And now we can rerun it in our head, but with the correct execution, that better execution that we know would make that play actually work. This is going to promote that bounce back speed. This is going to help us develop that memory in a better promotional way and have that mental reset. So the last thing that we can do before we snap out of it is end with that deep breath and then return to the present. Go kick butt, go do what you need to do because you rewound that tape. No longer do you have that mistake. You know what you need to do both mentally and physically because that mental will tie to the physical. But this will help us build that mental resilience of that muscle memory because we're rewinding the mistake. We're forgetting about the mistake. And more importantly, we're forgetting about it because we are replacing it with the newfound memory of how the skill and what we can do, at least in the head, really works. Flying through these. Number three is the pressure reps. Actually, I want to put a quick example for that last one. I know a lot of athletes, especially in golf, when it is so mental, where if they make a bad swing or don't drive it where they need to, don't chip it where they need to, they won't actually leave that spot until they replay that in their head. And they might physically replay it too, but they make sure they rewind that play mentally, connect correctly, get the ball where they wanted it before they step out and move on to the next play. And this can be used in any of our sports, any of our athletics, any of our performances to make sure before we move on from that instance, rewind it and then replay it with the correct outcome that we want, that we can control as well. So then we are ready to do it. And our body and mind knows that we can because we just played it in the head. Number three are pressure reps. Okay, these are the mental imagery reps for the big moments. I love these. We can use them during practice or downtime between reps at home anytime. But for more specifically, instead of just the game day, kind of like we were doing, instead, this one will be for the biggest pressure moments so we can make sure we lock in when it counts. So how do we do this? Is we can visualize ourselves in those high pressure scenarios, right? Maybe it's a free throw to win. Maybe it's a final drive or a final dive. Maybe it's the last lap. Maybe it's 2 minutes on the clock or 2 minutes left. We need to lock in and see how we are going to stay in the moment. Is it going to be focusing on the composure with the breath? Is it going to be execution? What physical sense are we going to come to? What's the body language looking like? What's the self-talk saying? And we can reiterate these in that moment so we know what we are going to do when we get there. And then if we need to, if we are doing this at practice or if we're doing this at home, add some difficulty, turn on some noise, do it after we get a little tired, turn on some distractions so we can really try to make sure that we lock in when that moment matters most. And this is really going to help us prime ourselves and prepare ourselves, and specifically the mind and then the body will follow for those pressures before we face it in real life. Like if you are going to take a test for school, are you going to do some pre-test before it? And you're not just going to you probably said yes. And you're not just gonna just la-di-da-di-da go through the pretest. If you really want to do good, you're going to set yourself up for the time. You're going to put yourself through somewhat of what the study guide lays out. Hopefully it's like the test. You're going to make it all the most similar to real life that it can be. And this is why we're doing it for the mental side, walking through this and even making ourselves a little fatigue or having some noise, some of that difficulty behind it. This also then reinforces that routine of calming the nervous system, right? Turning that fight and flight nervous system into our parasympathetic nervous system of our calming down. So making sure when we are under the stress, we are locked in and can control our body, control those thoughts, but also control our body and everything else that we need to do to make sure we can lock in and perform at our peak that we know we can physically, but when sometimes that mind just gets in the way. And then lastly here, I got the recovery room for some mental imagery. And this is when maybe you're kicked off the team because your grades aren't the best. Maybe you need a little bit of healing because you're injured and you're going through the rehab process. This is where the imagery maybe is needed the most, because this might be when we are down the most and when we need to keep working on our skills. And this visualization, this imagery really can make or break us. And there are a lot of studies out there that show just the immense progress and outcome that can come out of simply visualizing, simply walking through the mental imagery. So we're going to be using this when we are injured, when we have the rest periods and we can't do all the physical work that we can, or like when we can't go to the games for maybe external circumstances, but we still want to lock ourselves in. I love doing this one with athletes when they are on vacation and maybe they're taking a quick break from the game, but they still want to work on their reps in different ways. Or like I said, when anyone's hurt, unfortunately, or just for whatever reason cannot play. So if we are hurt, maybe we will be visualizing ourselves healing the tissue, that muscle regeneration, the smooth movement, the stroke, the kick, the pass, whatever the case is. Picture ourselves moving pain-free, returning to that sport stronger, literally coming back stronger, more powerful, whatever the case is. Add the mental motivational imagery if we need it, a comeback moment of support system, the success of what it's going to be like. But not only that is what we're going to be having the mental imagery here of the recovery room. We also can do the mental reps. If it is a PK, flow through the exact step by step, frame by frame by frame of the movie of the PK of what it's going to be. Maybe we're a wide out. Run the route still in the head. Picture the routes and see yourself, third person, running the route. See yourself, first person, running the route. Even if it's a track, visualize that time while you're crossing the finish line. If it's a free throw for basketball, visualize those reps, even when you can't get in there. Any move, any instance, walk through the exact steps of what you're going to do, and then do this 100+ times, and then come back once we are good, once we're able to come back and show everyone what is up. Why does this work? The research is showing that the mental imagery heals and accelerates the healing and maintains those neural patterns tied to the skill execution, right? It's not the exact same, but it fires very similar neural routes. Think of them as grooves, like a river. And the more that water passes through, the more that canyon is formed in the brain and the connections. That is what going through these mental imagery reps really does. It keeps us engaged, it keeps us optimistic during the rehab. It allows ourselves to still perform and play our game, even when everyone else thinks we're sidelined and everyone else is they're done. No, this is your instance. This is your time to come back, show everyone what is up and how you are coming back stronger than when you were before. All thanks to mental imagery. I want to make sure as we conclude this that you understand that we understand mental imagery is not just fluff. It is performance rehearsal. Elite athletes like Doug McDermott, who we talked about at the start of this, consistently used this to gain that edge. He may have seemed just like an average white boy out there, but he had a hunger and a drive and a desire behind him to be one of the best and greatest. And it wasn't just that. He used all the skills he could. Like this mental imagery before every game, when there was no one in the stadium, they would walk through these to almost, to what their language would say is hypnotize him to just go out there and ball up. And he is not the only example, but he is the example I am using. And what really struck this as a chord for me, because I was talking to his sports psychologist, and it really just laid out the foundation for a few more things of where the athlete's health is going and how we will continue to help athletes out. So whether you are getting ready for a big game, bouncing back from a mistake, preparing for the pressure, or recovering from an energy, there's a mental rep for that. And all of the ones that we're using for the examples today are around the mental imagery, that visualization. So I want to recap them super fast. Preview the play to mentally prime for just any performance, any space around it. We had the reset and rerun to bounce back from those mistakes, right? We were rewinding the VHS tape so then we can replay it with the correct outcome, the correct movement, the correct play, whatever we had to do that we messed up a little bit. So then our body and our mind knows what it feels like and knows what it should have been. And then we can most likely do it better again. Then we had pressure reps. And this is to build that confidence during the crunch time, during the pressure time when the moment matters most. And then lastly, we had that recovery room, mentally sharp during the injuries, during those setbacks, during those times when we cannot fully get out there and perform, but we can still cut those grooves, carve those grooves in the head, in the neural circuits, in the body, produce that outcome when now I want to make sure we know that these are big moments. We can take a deep breath. We can have the total composure. And that is why I wanted to create something for the mental reps for you to use and everything else. I got some guided mental imagery audios for these that I'm just dropping at our Phrenomic gym, and I'm giving the composure reps totally free. The whole audio series is free, and we're going to keep adding to it to any Phrenomic gym athlete, titan of the athlete's health. But this is a short, powerful session to really help you stay calm and focused when everything's on the line. I wanted to drop the composure one for everyone so then you can use it when that matters most. That's one that athletes like to work on. I understand. So I'm dropping that instead of the clarity or confidence one to start here. But check it out in the very first link in the description here, because I want to give this to you as a listener, as a titan, as an athlete of the athlete's health. I was our TAH titan. So you can dominate the game and stay composed when it matters most. And then if you want the full mental imagery series, and we're going to keep uploading more on this till we get to 10, just for now, check out our coaching, check out any of the links below, send us a message, and we'd love to get you on our free Phrenomic Gym mental strengths finder to see your strengths and where we can build them up as we keep leveling up our mental game together. But take this one. It's on me. Train your mind like you train your body, and let's build that pressure-proof performance through the athlete's health. This is our mental performance playbook. Hopefully you can take something away from these mental imagery preparation exercises. And I'll catch you next week. My name's Gabe Rummel. Peace.